All right, welcome in, hockey fans in the Desert Southwest. It's another Hockey Talk in the Desert Southwest. Episode 2 of the year. You can see behind me, we're in a very familiar place to a lot of people in the Desert Southwest, because if you got the hockey stink, this is the place to come to get rid of it. We're at Jay Hinnant's place, the Oxypow Man, as we like to call him. Jay's just opened up his new store along with his mobile store. As you can see on my right, I've got Seth Askelson with me, and Seth is the voice of GCU hockey and a little bit of everything hockey, correct?
Yeah, just try and cover as much as I can. That's what it's all about in the business, right? You just kind of reach out and then cover as much as you can. So hockey is a sport I grew up loving and I grew up playing, so I might as well cover it too as I go along.
Absolutely. So as we talk a little bit about the hockey part of it, we'll talk a little bit about what you've done in the past, but we're also going to introduce what you're doing for us in the future, right? We just got you on board as our new Coyotes correspondent, so all season long we can expect to find stuff on our IcetimeHockeySW.com webpage on the Coyotes page.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it, and it's a new journey that I appreciate you bringing me on board for.
Well, you know what? There's a lot of hockey in the Desert Southwest, and like I said, we're going to take a quick break and do a little adjustment here, and we'll be right back for you. It's episode number 2 of Hockey Talk in the Desert Southwest, live here and from North Phoenix on Cave Creek Road at the Oxypow Studios. And as you can see behind us, we're right here, right in the factory, where everything gets done, where the funk gets removed. Seth Askelson, welcome in again. We were just about to start talking about what you do, so tell us what you do.
So at the moment, GCU ice hockey play-by-play guy, a program that's really starting to take off in the Desert Southwest in only 3 years. They're already at the Division I ACHA level, and I think for any college program, really the ultimate goal would be Division I NCAA, but I think right now the focus for GCU is kind of find that consistency and really dominate that ACHA Division I level before there's even talks about moving to the NCAA.
Well, we're going to talk ACHA hockey in a little bit, but let's just quickly touch on, you were part of that very first group that started GCU hockey, where you played in the beer league for the first year, and can you believe how fast that's accelerated up to the ACHA D1 level?
Yeah, and it's been really quick. There was a game one time where it was Christmas, so a lot of our team was back home, and ASU's prospect team was also playing in the same league, and they had to go back home as well. So we had about 6 players from each team. So what happened was we ended up combining teams, and we played in each other's games. And Danny Roy was the goaltender, I believe, for the first game, because GCU, we ended up getting one of our goaltenders to show up. Right. But for the ASU,
Danny being a former goaltender
at
ASU and now the head coach at Grand Canyon.
Yeah,
it's kind of ironic how everything works together here, right?
Yeah, and it's good because when he's yelling at you from in the goal, you can kind of skate away from him down to the other end. Whereas if he's on the bench, there's nowhere you can really go. So I just remember that game, realized how out of shape I was after a shift. This was in the second game, came straight to the bench and headed over to the nearest trash can to empty the stomach a little bit. I didn't really have a choice. But the worst part is we're all wearing cages, and I wasn't able to get the cage up fast enough. So it was, had to do a little...
We love the stories about hockey, don't we?
Yeah, it was definitely something I had to go, when I got home, I had to use the hose in the backyard to rinse my glove off and rinse my cage off. It was a little messy, but we made it.
Hopefully you had a little Oxypow in your bag and sprayed everything down, killed all the germs, got that good smell back.
I definitely needed it. I hadn't heard of it quite yet. But yeah, going from having a kid who was out of shape, puking in garbage cans to the ACHA Division I level, definitely a huge rise for GCU.
All right, as I said, we're going to get back to that. Let's talk a little bit about what we are going to talk about today. Big things coming up in the NHL. As I mentioned earlier, you're going to be our beat reporter for Arizona Coyote hockey, so you're going to be bringing us stories and stuff about the Coyotes all season long, and a huge deal for them with the growth that they made last year, right? All of a sudden, we got the NHL Draft coming up here in just a couple of days. And we're going to start talking about new guys coming in. Last year we saw Barrett Hayton, the big center, come in and make an impact and then go back to juniors. Now he's coming back. as a second-year person to the prospect camp. Talk a little bit about what you know and what you think of the Coyotes, the way they sit right now.
I think it'll be interesting when you talk about a guy like Barrett Hayton, right? Everybody thought, oh, this is I wouldn't say a project player, but yeah, he's not going to play right away. He's not one of those guys. But all of a sudden, it's starting to look like he could crack the roster this year. Has a lot of talent. The center position in the NHL and really in hockey in general is just one of those where it's very hard to find quality people at that position. If you can do it, that was one of the reasonings, a little, I wouldn't say confusing, but a lot of people were wondering why they didn't take Filip Zadina,
right,
who was there at 7. But when you can take a center that you think is going to be fantastic, even if it does take a year or two extras and juniors to develop, you might as well take him because the center position is so hard to find. And I mean, when you really look at it, Filip Zadina didn't start the year on the Red Wings roster, ended up having to go to Grand Rapids. And when he came up, he was a talented player. I mean, not that he was necessarily behind the game by any stretch, but everybody thought he was going to be the rookie of the year and, going to come in and average almost a point a game. And it turned out that, played a lot of the season in the American League. And by the time he came up to Detroit, their season was already over. So
right,
it was kind of one of those situations which we've seen the Coyotes in, 2-3 years ago, where just bring up your young guys and see what can happen. So I think with the Coyotes, you got an interesting situation there. You talk about their first-round pick from 2 years ago, Pierre-Olivier Joseph. All 8 guys that were mainstays on the blue line last year for the Coyotes are back under contract. Labushkin got signed last week, so very interesting. I think he's going to start the year out in Tucson. He was a late first-round pick. It was the same year they ended up having 2 picks. They got that first-round pick from Minnesota because of the Martin Hanzal trade, and ended up flipping that 7th pick for Stepan and Ranta.
Right. Not a bad deal.
Not a bad deal at all. and so it'll be interesting. I think Joseph's going to start the year in Tucson. He may stay a couple years. There's a lot of talk that the Coyotes could unload one of their veteran defensemen for a goal scorer. Goligoski could be a candidate.
You've been talking about that?
I know some people have thrown Jormelson's name out there, but I don't know if that's the right guy you want to get rid of. I mean, a guy who's a Stanley Cup champion, a proven winner, second in the league in blocked shots last year. I mean, a guy who played all 82 games, the only guy on the Coyotes to play all 82 games.
And when you talk about the Coyotes, they were really a hard luck team again this year. They struggled with goaltender injuries, with big injuries to key players along the way. Michael Grabner, of course, started off unbelievably playing on the penalty kill, scoring shorthanded goals, and then all of a sudden he takes that puck to the eye. So, I mean, you go down the list, what Rick Tocchet did with what he had to work with, pretty incredible.
Yeah, it is, and it's almost the second year in a row you could say that, right? I mean, right. Even in his first year, he, as I say, had a limited roster, but I think they were dealing. It was a lot of new guys. They were dealing with injury. The goaltending situation didn't help. Ronta was not. He didn't start Game 1 against Anaheim 2 years ago, and that was the game where it went up 4-1, and then some poor goaltending by Louis Domingue led to a 5-4 loss on opening night, and really that, when they jumped out 4-1, it was kind of, okay, this team knows how to score now, and they know how to play, and it was kind of a hard crash back to reality.
Right.
And then they ended up losing the next 12, and it was really hard luck too. They weren't losing those games by a lot either. There's a lot of overtime games, a lot of bad bounces, and I think it's one of those things where I think it's a mix of bad things, mostly bad luck, but at the same time, I think the Coyotes just got to get out to a better start to their seasons last year. I mean, they had that winning streak early. That I believe that was a 5-game winning streak, but then kind of after that winning streak, they kind of fizzled down a little bit, but then they picked it right back up at the start of the new year, and it's about finding that consistency all the way through. I mean, it was tough that last road trip of the year, maybe the most important road trip of the last 5 to 6 years.
Right.
Ended with only picking up 1 point.
Boy, that was tough luck about that one.
And I mean, you could just feel the tough luck when Keller had that wide open net in New Jersey, and
yeah.
I mean, he's standing on the goal line, and it hits off the post and comes out, and you're just kind of like, that was almost the final note to the symphony,
and the final note was, and I was there when they played Vegas and won the game. We're leading into the second period, and at the end of the second period, they find out they're eliminated by a Colorado win.
Yeah, and I remember that night I was actually recording something else with a few friends, and that my buddy had the game on the TV, the Coyotes game on the TV, and I had the Colorado game on my phone. This wasn't what we were recording wasn't tape, so
right.
But I didn't speak for the final 20 minutes or so of what was being recorded, just because I was so upset, because the Jets were leading that game. And it's just one of those things where, I mean, you can say this for every team every year, but you just think back, there's just a couple games that, okay, if you could have got that extra point, like, it wouldn't have mattered. Or if you could have, hung on. I mean, think about early on Black Friday when they played Colorado at home, and JT Compher went off and they blew the Coyotes out of the water. I mean, you just kind of think of those things where you just got to go back and you say, okay, if we figure out a way, if you're the Coyotes, hey, if we figure out a way to maybe hang on to 4 of these points, we're playing in April.
Absolutely. Well, on the other side of our NHL coin here in the Desert Southwest is the Vegas Golden Knights. So, while you're on the Coyote beat, I'll be over on the Golden Knights beat. So, hopefully we're going to meet in the Western Conference Finals, maybe, or something like that. Can we do that?
That'd be nice. It would be nice. A little, a lot of backstage access for us. That would be nice.
One of the things that happened with the Golden Knights season this year is that they came in down a man in their defenseman. Nate Schmidt, who was out with the PED suspension for 20 games, right? And I said at the beginning of the year, I said, he's the heart and soul of this team. Without him, if they can come out of this thing 10-10, they're going to have a shot at the playoffs. They got into the playoffs, and then unfortunately they found out what happens when you don't close teams out. After that series against San Jose was over and they lost, I don't know that I've ever seen a group of professional hockey or professional athletes more determined to get back on the ice and right things than that team. They're very experienced, they're very poised, and they're ready to come back and get even. I think it was a huge learning experience, if you can say that, for guys with 10, 12 years experience for some guys in the 5-year. But so that's one of the things, and I think the Coyotes, in the same token, have picked that up as young guys. They saw what happened, they saw how close they were, and I think they have that gut feeling this year that we're not going to let this happen again.
Yeah, and with the Coyotes, they have proven winners on their team. Derek Stepan's been to a Stanley Cup final. Jarmelsson's won 2 cups. I mean, Ronton, those Rangers teams that have gone to the playoffs and gone deep. It's one of those things where they have the experience, and then they have the veterans that know what it takes to win, and it's just taking that extra step. I mean, you can't go 0-4 on a road trip that you need to pick up wins on, but I think at the same time that it is that learning experience for those younger guys. Okay, sometimes the schedule isn't in our favor, but we still got to find a way to gut it out. And I mean,
absolutely.
Rick Tocchet, who his first head coaching stint in Tampa, he kind of got thrown into an unfair situation. He came in as the interim coach, and that Lightning team, I mean, really was just Vincent Lecavalier and Martin St. Louis. They didn't really have too much talent outside of that. And
right.
I think he was just kind of thrown into the fire and almost was kind of the scapegoat for that team when he ended up getting cut from there. But he went in, I don't know if you can say he got a better job after getting fired as a head coach of an NHL team, but
right.
He goes to Pittsburgh as an assistant coach, a better environment, an environment built on winning. He's able to kind of perfect his craft as a coach.
Exactly.
Coach some of the world's best players, and he gets hired by the Coyotes. I mean, when they let go of Dave Tippett, it was kind of like, all right, well, who's on the market? Well,
Yeah.
Joel Quenneville is still in Chicago, but all of a sudden it was like, oh, Rick Tocchet. And I know a lot of the concern was, well, last time he was the head coach, didn't go very well, and that team wasn't very good. But again, that's when he was first getting into coaching, kind of thrown into the fire. Now, I think people realize, look, he's learned from some of the best head coaches. He had Dan Bilesma, he had Mike Johnson. He's learned from some of the world's best players, right?
Yeah.
And I think he's starting to understand, okay, you gotta, he knows what it takes to win, and he's starting to kind of, in a good way, push it on those young guys and say, hey, in Pittsburgh, this is what it takes to win. And I mean, you see Pittsburgh, they did win 2 straight Stanley Cups, but it wasn't like it was just Crosby and Malkin dragging them all the way, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
You got to get key moments at a role players, and they really did.
Absolutely.
Jake Gensel came into his own a couple of years ago. Matt Murray found his groove. I mean, who would have thought, when Marc-Andre Fleury went down to start those the 2016 playoffs, and like, well, they're gonna have to go with Matt Murray, a rookie goaltender. Everyone's kind of like, well, that's it for Pittsburgh. Like, put that one to bed. And Matt Murray shut down the Rangers in that first round. And I think once he shut down the Rangers in the first round, everyone kind of realized, uh-oh, we're in trouble. And then they got Fleury back, and it was almost the situation the Coyotes had, right? All of a sudden they have two NHL caliber starting goaltenders.
And what do you do?
Exactly. So I think with Rick Tocchet, they were in a different situation than they were last year. Yes, they finished the season really hot 2 seasons ago.
Yep.
But this year it was like, okay, we were right on the bubble there, and we just it didn't go the way we wanted to. And I think they understand that there are some things in there that they could have controlled a little bit better. And I think this is the year they finally break through.
All right, well, let's take a quick break. We're going to come back, and I'll visit with the Oxypow man. Jay Hinnant's going to be joining me for a little bit. We're going to talk about this fabulous new place he's in, what he's doing, revolutionizing getting out to hockey teams. So we'll be right back. All right, welcome back in, hockey fans in the Desert Southwest. Hockey Talk in the Desert Southwest is back. Episode 2. You know this guy next to me. I know you guys do because you see him for getting the funk out of all of your hockey gear. You see him for getting some skates sharpened now. But Jay Hinnant, welcome in with Oxypow.
Thank you.
Love the logo.
Thank you.
Love the new shirt. Love the caps.
Thank you.
Let's go a little behind the scenes once. Tell me why we went from an owl to a bear.
Okay, so no one told me that owls can't smell. And my business is kind of predicated on odor. So I kind of went the complete opposite way and said, what's the animal? I need a mascot because I want to be on hockey jerseys, right?
Right.
So I like, what animal has the best sense of smell? And it was a black bear. So I'm like, there you go.
And it blends in perfectly.
Yeah,
And it looks great.
it's great.
It's
I
a
love
great
it.
logo. We
I
love
love
it. So you invited us into this beautiful place that you're calling home now. I know you said you've been here since June 1st and doing some remodeling. It looks great. The product's all here.
Yep.
But that's not the only thing you're going to do, right? You're going to take this on the road, aren't you?
Correct, yeah. So I had stuff in storage, stuff in my wife's fourth bedroom that I had to go, and then I had my trailer. I was running around like a madman. I wanted to consolidate.
Yeah.
So I brought everything into this space, so I have a little retail space, and I have a little production space to do bottle builds and shipping and do the gear, which is behind us. But all in one place. So like customers, kind of like a dry cleaner.
Yeah.
You can drop your gear off today, pick it up tomorrow.
Right.
We don't have to wait 3 days to where are you going to be? Where are you going to be? I don't know. Where are you going to be? Yeah. So now it's so much easier. It's just
And the location is fantastic. It's right off the 101 and Cave Creek Road in North Phoenix. So with Glendale, easy to get here. Scottsdale, easy to get here.
Right.
Anywhere you go, you can get in out the 101. New rinks coming up just north of us here in Anthem before too long.
Yep.
They'll be close.
Yep.
A lot of good things happening, but let's step backwards a minute. Let's stop to tell people where Oxypow, the brainchild of that, where did it come from? How long has it been around? I mean, I love it, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm using it all the time. My car is covered with it.
Yeah. Why won't Lyft pick me up and go?
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, it is an incredible product. But tell me a little bit about where it got started and what was the concept behind Oxypow.
The idea was simple. In 2013, I was the driving dad for my son's hockey teams. What I was noticing was we were losing kids to getting rashes and infections, and noticing that my truck smelled awful when they were out of it in between trips. And we were driving all over Vegas for tournaments and everywhere, and I was like, there's got to be a better way. So for 2 years, as I traveled around with everybody, I would stop and check what these guys do, and then I'd say, well, what do you guys do, and what do you guys do? And then I kind of took what I thought was the best of everything, put it together, and wanted something that primarily was non-toxic. That was the goal. So everybody else had chemical this, chemical that, and alcohol and all this other stuff that's not good for your gear. I wanted to find a way to make it, good for the planet and good for the gear. So I focused on ozone, aqueous, wet, and dry to do the same thing that the chemicals were doing.
You and I talked about a couple of months ago when you were showing me your trailer, and
Correct. You came down and sweat.
Yeah.
This is a little better, right?
Right.
Yeah, a little better.
Absolutely. But we talked about what that's going to be like going on the road. But the one thing that stuck with me more than anything you told me that day was when you're done washing equipment, the water that comes out of your wash machine is what?
It's palatable. It's potable. So I can take the grossest hockey gear you can muster, use ozonated water, and the water coming into the gray tank is actually potable. You can actually drink it. I've actually drank it in front of people before.
That's incredible. I mean, that just every time I think about that, it stuns me because we all know what hockey gear sounds like. The other thing that stuck with me.
I don't like to do it, but I will.
You know, the other thing that stuck with me was the test that you ran a little while ago about the germs and fungus in the skates, but also the gloves. And we talked about this, and I think it's worth mentioning again. Tell me about a hockey glove before you get to the skate.
Yeah, so I can't really separate them, but 80% of all the dead bacteria and all the bad stuff, the germs, the petri dish, is in a player's gloves and skates. That's where it's the most prominent. Because you think about playing, you take hand off, wipe face, do whatever, throw hand back in glove. Your skates down in the toe box never get ultraviolet light, never get sunlight, so everything lives down there and loves it because it's dark and sweaty and wet and great. So those are the two areas that, if anything else, if you get the spray or you don't come see me, but you use the spray, make sure you do those.
Right.
Because that's where you're going to get 80% of your problems.
And as you can see, the spray behind us, hold up one of those bottles and let us see what those look like. Those are fantastic. They're so portable. You can take them with you, right? Travel size, throw them in your bag, use them all the time.
That's it.
Everywhere I go and I see a hockey player, I talk about it, which led me to talk about the thing that you and I partner on now, which is Fantastic Fridays, which we started last year. We talk about the Fantastic Friday performance, right?
Yep.
We look for people that can submit us things, or I look at when I'm at places, or I trust people, or sometimes I get emails or text messages from you.
I only did it once. I did it one time.
But
tell me she didn't deserve it.
She absolutely deserved it.
Okay.
And I talk about their performances, and the guys love it. The girls love it. When when I show up a couple of weeks later and I get down to see people in Tucson or Vegas or whatever, and I go, you were just named the Oxypow Fantastic Friday Performer of the Night. Here's what I got for you.
Yep.
Those guys love it. I mean, there's almost fistfights in a college locker room because they all want your product.
Right. And outside of them liking it on Twitter and liking it on Facebook, guys will send me direct messages and go, hey man, thanks.
Yeah.
And I get that 9 out of 10 times, which is awesome. I do it because I love the sport and I wanted to be involved. But it's very cool outside of just the global, hey, thanks, that was great, Oxypow rocks. They'll text me, or actually had a guy call me and goes, this is the greatest stuff in the world.
Right.
Where have you been all my life?
Yep.
So that means a lot. That's cool.
Well, when we started Ice Time Hockey Southwest, the goal was to grow the game, right?
Absolutely.
But it's also to grow the game in other areas. Like, I can't grow the game for people if they're not taking care of their bodies and their health and their equipment and those types of things, because that keeps them off the ice.
Correct.
Right? So we want people to get involved, to use the product, to make sure that they stay healthy, they don't have skin rashes, they don't have all the bad stuff that can go along with it, and you're a big part of that.
Absolutely.
Let's wrap things up by telling me what you jumped into.
Okay.
In addition to cleaning, you got a little machine.
Yep.
It's a fantastic machine.
Love it.
Allows you to take it almost anywhere.
Anywhere. It fits in my trunk. I can go anywhere.
So tell me what that is and what you plan on doing this winter.
Right. So this winter, a lot of guys would bring me their gear and have a day to get it back. Right. So I solved that problem. Now they can get it back in a day. Or they'd be going on the road and go, hey, do you have time to sharpen these? Well, I couldn't.
Right.
Or they'd be out of this kind of tape, or a broken lace, or don't have a mouth guard and have to play in an hour. I've solved all those problems. I've also purchased a Sparks machine, which is it's a mobile skate sharpener. Lots of the NHL teams use it, AHL, everybody's using it worldwide. It weighs a lot less than a Blade Master. And you can put it in your trunk and you can fly with it. You can take it anywhere.
You chuckle because we both used the Blade Master in the past. We know what that's like.
I've ruined
no bad things about Blade Master.
No,
we're not going to bash
it's
anybody.
Great. It's awesome.
But this thing is unbelievable.
This thing's amazing because it takes my idiot error out of the equation. When I sharpen skates, it was a 50-50 proposition at best. With this thing, it's 100. It's perfect every time. I have yet to screw it up. The machine covers up for me, which is great. But no, it's perfect. I've had, I don't even know how many guys go, hey, you want to test my steel?
Yeah.
So yes, we've done lots and lots of them, and I stand behind it 100%. It's amazing. So my plan is a couple times a month to go down to Tucson and help sharpen skates down with the those organizations, the youth organizations, because they individually come up here. I mean, I see guys drive up here with 15 pairs of skates.
Right.
well, let me go down there and get them maybe what they need a little bit, and go up to Flagstaff, help those guys a little. Just act as like a small little support group type thing.
The other thing that comes into play is there's a lot of tournament play, as you know, all over the valley, all over the desert Southwest.
Yes.
This is an opportunity for you to get out and reach those people that are here from out of town that maybe need a skate sharpening or need that tape or whatever it is, or want some Oxypow. But I mean,
well, the idea was this is an add-on to the gear cleaning. It was something I couldn't do for people before. Now I can.
Right.
It has its own, and it can do its own thing also. But it was one-stop shop for your gear. Your gear gets done. You get the spray. Your skates get an edge on them. You get some clear tape for your socks, and out you go.
Absolutely.
That was the whole idea. And we're there.
Well, you know what? I love the fact that you brought us in because it's nice and cool in here. It's 105 outside. We've got a nice backdrop of Oxypow products and things going around. We're going to end the show today. I'll walk around with you and have you show me a little bit some of the things in the store, so we can go over those things, and we'll tell people how they can get it. We'll throw it out there right now. How can they get your products if they don't live here in the valley?
Yep, you can go to my website. There's a product page on my website. I just updated all of it today, and knowing you were coming in. So the products page in my Oxypow store has everything, all the shipping. It's all there. It's very simple. You can go online is probably the best way. I'm also on Amazon. You can get it off of Amazon as well. But if you're in the valley, you can come here. You can go to behind the mask. You can go to Coyotes Pro Shops.
Very good. And once again, shout out to that new logo. I love it.
Yeah, bears can smell.
And here's the best part of it. Bears can smell, but we don't want them to smell anything.
That's right. 21-mile range they have. I didn't know if you knew that.
I did not know that. Now I have one more thing that's going to be stuck in my head.
If you're ever on Jeopardy, you got it.
Jay, I appreciate bringing us in. I appreciate your knowledge for the sport. We're all in this together to grow the game of hockey in the desert Southwest. We all want to win, but more importantly, we want to see this thing grow, and it's starting to.
Absolutely. Every year.
All right, we'll be back, and Seth and I will be back to talk a little NHL draft and what we think is going to happen with our Vegas Golden Knights and Arizona Coyotes.
Pre-game like a pro, post-game like a champion at College Bar and Grill. Located across the street from the iconic A Mountain and Sun Devil Stadium and a quick walk from Wells Fargo Arena, College Bar and Grill is your home for the best local craft beer, delicious creative cocktails, tasty food, and Tempe's best atmosphere for Arizona State athletics. College Bar and Grill. Pre-game like a pro, post-game like a champion. Online at ilovecollege.co.
Jess, this is as good a smile that I was supposed to smile because it's only hockey, but you know what? It's 105 down here, but I can smile today because Jay Hinnant brought us inside to the Oxypow place. Seth, I want to get your opinion. What do you think about this place?
It's a nice little area here. I mean, it's definitely enough to do what he needs to do, right? Wash the hockey clothes. Got the good set of washers and dryers behind us, but it's also not unnecessarily large. I mean, sometimes you'll go into hockey stores and they'll have all their equipment kind of out in the front, but then all of a sudden you just kind of see this empty, dead space. You know what I mean? You're kind of like, well, that seems unnecessary. It's a good little area. I mean, the product is good, and so I like it, and I think it's definitely the first step into some even more success for Oxypow down the road. I'm
going to throw you under the bus, and then we're going to give you a little quiz. The first thing that you told me last night was you said, what should I wear? And I said, well, maybe a polo shirt. And you said, can I wear my Oxypow shirt? And I said, sure, go ahead if you want. But I didn't want to put a little pressure on you, but tell us about your experience with Oxypow.
So I had a friend of mine, his dad had recommended it to me, and he let me try a bottle, and it works great. And it's again, it's the toe boxes, it's the gloves that are just the sweatiest, the nastiest part. I mean, so for me, it works great on those. Haven't been able to get a bottle or two because I honestly didn't know where else to pick it up. But now I know, right?
Now I know. Absolutely.
Now I know where to go, but I definitely need it. I actually purchased a pair of gloves from ASU, the ones that they're pro stock stuff that they use at the end of the day, or that they put out at the end of the season when they're just kind of getting rid of it. They'll sell it in the team shop. and bought one, like a pair of practice gloves, and I've been using them a lot. So I definitely the stink is starting to settle in a little bit.
Because there's a little summer hockey in your life right now, isn't there?
Yeah.
Last week's guest host Ethan Schmidt was telling me that he's playing with you.
Yeah,
summer hockey.
It's fun. It's fun. I mean,
It's a good place to cool off, right?
It is, and Oceanside, they resurfaced, they redid the ice. Really, they melted it, took it down, and put it back up, and it's gorgeous. And Oceanside always keeps their ice great. And I mean, for a facility that hosts an NCAA hockey team and three ACHA teams and a plethora of adult league hockey and travel hockey throughout the year. It just, that ice somehow just stays amazing no matter what. And sure, at the end of the year it might be a tad choppy, but it's still one of the best ice surfaces in Arizona. I'd argue top 3 outside of Gila River, and then the ice the ice that the Coyotes use.
Anybody that's heard me before has known that every time I'm at Oceanside, I comment about how cold it is, right?
Yeah.
Christmas time, when it was down for a little while, and the guys came back from NCAA break, and the NCAA guys came back, they were commenting on just how cold it was. Everything I heard was in Celsius, because they're all Canadian.
Yeah.
They all had to tell me how cold that rink was when they got back. All right, enough of that. Here's a quick quiz. I know you were listening to Jay and I talk. I keep telling people that I get so much stuff from him, right? And things that stick in my head. He just threw out one little tidbit. I'm putting you on the spot now. A bear can smell from what range?
21-mile radius.
Oh, shit.
Which is
Everybody
insane.
watches and listens. Well done. All right, let's start talking hockey again here, because I could go on with this stuff all day long. All right, we're back to hockey. We're talking NHL Draft. You got the Coyotes side of it. I got the Vegas side of it. Coyotes picked 14th. Vegas picked 17th. Start with you. What do you like in the 14th spot?
There's a lot of different names, kind of doing a little research. Philip Broberg, defenseman over from Europe, seems like a popular name. Bleacher Report has the Coyotes taking Peyton Krebs, a center. My NHL Draft has Arthur Kaibiev, a left winger from the Europe side of things. So Alex Newhook as well, a center who's ranked 13th overall in the NHL.com scouting rank. And just one of those things where the middle of the draft is always hard to predict, right? I mean, there's so many guys that are either make or break. I mean, you think of a guy like Matthew Barzal, who was picked in the kind of the middle first round by the Islanders, and he's an absolute superstar. And sometimes there's guys who are drafted in the middle rounds that you never really hear from, or just kind of turn into role players. There's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, if you can play hockey at an NHL level, you're obviously a talented hockey player. But at the moment, it's interesting, right? I think the Coyotes, they could easily make a pick, right? They could hold on to it, develop a guy, but it's one of those things where I wonder, do they maybe kind of throw that out there and say, hey, is there a scorer available for this pick? Is somebody willing to part with a goal scorer to take this pick? And I mean, you could maybe knock at the door with the Red Wings, see if they'd give anybody up.
Never done that before.
No, yeah, exactly. Well, one that'll stay stateside at least for this season,
and doesn't have an expiring contract.
That's true, but I mean, that's another thing is when you look at the Coyotes, a lot of those contracts that they took on, kind of in their darker years, have come up, right? Chris Pronger's contract's off the books. Datsuk's contract off the books. All of a sudden, this cap space is starting to open up, so it might allow them to kind of bring in somebody, maybe trade that 14th pick. I know Matt Duchene's name had kind of been thrown out. I mean, the Coyotes can trade that pick to pull somebody in and maybe pick up a guy like Matt Duchene. They could be set. I mean, all their defensemen are coming back. If they feel like they want to get rid of some cap, maybe see if somebody will take Goligoski. I know that there's some talks kind of among people that if they were going to try and shed some salary for a winger, Goligoski would be part of a deal. But I mean, he played really well last year, so it's one of those things where you need the goal scoring, and you're kind of like, all right, well, do we sacrifice some of our defense core to maybe balance ourselves out?
Well, when we look at the Coyotes roster, and the NHL Draft is such a crapshoot, right? We really don't know where anybody's going. We don't know what John Chaika's thinking. We don't know who's going to pick before them, so maybe a guy they like isn't there. I mean, there's tons of things going on, but when you look at the Coyotes roster, I think we can say they're pretty well set in goal, right? I mean, they just let go with Hunter Miska. A little sour taste for me being a Bulldog. to watch him leave, but that just tells you the depth that they have in goaltending. So not really looking for a goaltender, right?
Yeah.
We just talked about the defensive core. There's 8 guys that are all coming back that were mainstays. Plus there's guys trying to get into that top 8. I mean, they're probably 12 to 13 defensemen, NHL caliber defensemen deep. So maybe we're not looking for a defenseman. We always talk about they're missing that center. They're always missing a center. Is that what you think they're looking for? Or are they just looking for a forward or a goal scorer, or maybe that trade for a goal scorer?
I mean, I think you're going to get a goal scorer either way. Now, I guess the question is does the organization feel like, are they at a point where they don't want to take on somebody for another 2 years, right? I mean, you draft Barrett Hayton, might be on the roster this season, might not, but you had to at least 1 year without him.
Right.
So are they willing? I mean, at 14, there's not a lot of guys who are day one NHL players at 14. Do they want to take a guy who is going to maybe sit in juniors for a year or two? I mean, you see Pierre Oliver Joseph, who sat in the
couple of years
in the juniors for 2 years, and he most likely will start the year in Tucson just because of the depth. And you wondered, not that I don't think the Coyotes are going to say impatient, but are they kind of like, okay, maybe we need to take a different approach and not necessarily develop guys, but if we can get somebody right away to help us with this 14th pick, whether it be somebody talented enough to draft at 14 or just to trade it, but I think it's going to be a forward, whether it be the pick or a trade and a package with that pick. And John Chaika not shy of those draft day trades, that's for sure.
Absolutely. The other side of the coin of the Vegas Golden Knights, starting their 3rd year of existence, right? And one of the teams that's got a couple of different things going on, right? Their cap space is pretty much maxed out at the moment. They got to do some juggling, right? They have a defensive core and an offensive core, and obviously Marc-Andre Fleury. So they're very deep and very experienced, and not a lot of young guys. They're going to be drafting for talent to develop, right? We also saw that their Chicago Wolves team got into the AHL final, if you will, and lost to Charlotte, but they got into the final and had the chance to see some of their young kids, Cody Glass, namely, Nick Hague, that stepped up. So, a little different thing for Vegas. They're drafting now for more of the future than the immediate need, right? I mean, they're already, I think, the 2nd best odds to win the Stanley Cup already this early in the season, but 2nd from Vegas odds makers. So that tells you there's a lot of talent there and a lot of experience. The draft, again, a crapshoot. Your thoughts on Vegas from what you see?
Yeah, it is tough to tell. I mean, with Vegas, they're in a situation where, yeah, you can draft a guy and you can wait 2-3 years and you're still going to be in an
Cody
okay
Glass
position.
is a good example.
Cody Glass, and like you said, they already got guys in the minor league to kind of back up. Somebody goes down, they can pull them right up. Be interested to see. I mean, you don't really see goalies go a ton in the top 20, let alone the first round. Do they go with a goalie, right? I mean, Malcolm Subban had a tough year last year.
Yep.
And I don't think that they're done with Malcolm Subban, but if he struggles again this year, or if he has a tough time kind of going through this year, they may be, Marc-Andre Fleury isn't getting any younger. They need a goalie to kind of replace him, right? I mean, and I think, and Vegas knew that. They knew they might get 5 years out of Marc-Andre Fleury. It wasn't like they were grabbing somebody at 23 and they were going to ride this goalie for the next decade. They knew they have a somewhat limited time with Marc-Andre Fleury. So maybe they go that way. Maybe they trade the pick for a goaltending prospect. Who knows? Hunter Miska might be a part of the Vegas Golden Knights.
Well, wouldn't that be ironic?
Be a part of the Vegas Golden Knights organization. So I think with them, it's going to be drafting for the future. And I think any position's open, really. Their defensive core wouldn't necessarily say is aged. I mean, Derek England, 37, really the oldest one, a couple 32-year-olds on that blue line. But in 2 or 3 years, all of a sudden, you're going to have a defensive core that is at 30 years old. And maybe you bring in a couple defensemen. And I think with the cap space, like you said, maybe they trade off one of their, I wouldn't say bigger contracts, but a contract that can alleviate a little cap space. Because they have Cody Glass, Nick Hague that they can pull up. So I think it'll be interesting for Vegas. I think it's just going to be a draft for the future. I saw Nick Suzuki's brother, Nick Suzuki, the first ever draft pick of the Golden Knights, his brother's name was kind of thrown around at 17.
Yeah.
So I think Ryan would hope that he also doesn't get traded off to the Montreal organization. But I mean, quick note on that. I mean, I think Nick Suzuki, if he comes up with the Canadiens next year, Canadiens are going to be an interesting team to look out for, and they're really going to pay off from the trades of Galchenyuk and Pacioretty.
Yeah.
But for Vegas, I think right now it's just all about drafting for the future, and I don't think they're going to mind if they get guys that sit for the next 2 years.
I agree. Well, what we're going to do is take another quick break. We're going to come back and we'll wrap things up with a little discussion on college hockey, your expertise, and at least the club level part of it, and then we'll wrap things up and we'll talk about where we're going next week, which will be back to College Bar and Grill and more ASU stuff, and we're hoping to get a little women's side of it for next week. We'll be right back. All right, folks, I promised you that we would be back and we'd do a little walk around. Jay Hinnant is with me again. Jay, you've been working on this for a little while now.
8 days.
8 days?
Yeah, 8, not counting.
But who's counting, right?
Who's counting. So this is Oxypow Cribs. Is that what this is?
There you go, Oxypow Cribs. I like it.
Okay.
I like the new hat. I already told you I like the shirt. I like the logo.
Logo makes sense now.
Absolutely. We know that bears now smell 21 miles. I'm not going to forget that one ever.
Yep.
So as we come into your oasis, as I like to call this, tell us a little bit about it. Come through the front door. And as we look, let's go off to your left, I guess.
Okay.
You got your signage ready to go already?
Right. So that's signage for tournaments or when I'm out mobile doing mobile stuff. This is just small accessory wall. So you get your skates done and, oh, I'm heading out, I need to get tape. Or, oh, my lace broke, I need laces. Or if I'm cleaning your gear and I know your laces are bad, or when I empty your bag, you have no tape. You know, it's just that last minute little stuff that players typically forget about and lose. So I'm just trying to help them keep everything together. If they're taking the time to get their gear done, I can take the time to help manage some of their equipment needs.
You told me something came in new today.
Oh, yes.
What came in new?
Very excited. So I finally got my own skate covers.
Oh.
So there are some in your to-go box for the Fantastic Friday winners, along with other cool
Friday
stuff.
Is actually going to have to crank it up.
That's
because,
right. You got to really,
this is a prize pack this year.
This is a big deal. So no, these are just my skate covers that I wanted to do.
Nice.
So it's just Oxypow with our corporate colors, and then
awesome,
premium
love
skate mates. Yep, that's all. And then we got regular ones too.
So as soon as you get through the door, not only off of there, but we look over, and the first thing that caught my eye was a TV, because you can't really work in here without a TV, can you?
Yeah, you got to have sports on 24/7.
Absolutely.
And there are normally 2 chairs there for people to sit and wait if they're picking up gear, skates, or whatever. And then this is a fridge for people to grab their own water and red vines. It's a requirement. And little chargers if they need to charge their
I'm
phones.
going to focus on the business hours for a minute because it's pretty unique. Tell us about your business hours and the way you set it up.
Yeah, so I'm open every weekday at 11 o'clock. On Wednesdays, I stay open till 8 p.m. to help with the late night men's league stuff. And then on Fridays, I close early because those are going to be the days that I'm going to leave from here and go to Flag, or leave from here and go to Tucson and take my stuff to do sharpenings and cleanings and so forth. So that's why it's set up that way. The best thing to do, though, is just give me a call. Everybody's got the number. If you don't, let me know. We'll put it up on the website and everything. Just call first, because a lot of it's by appointment. I say closed on the weekends. That just means if I'm not here, I don't want people to come by. But if I am, just give me a call.
Exactly.
Yeah, just make it simple. I just put that up as a standard.
All right. Yep. We'll look at the countertop, standard countertop in any retail location.
Exactly. So we have the square register, so all of our items are listed there. We have everything UPC coded, so we can barcode everything. You can get an emailed receipt. You can get a text receipt. You can pay with any kind of card on the planet. It's got the tap technology, all that cool stuff.
Every time I go to a shop, somebody's got something unique. There's 2 things that I just see right now. You have a nice Wi-Fi sign there.
Yep.
And who's this guy? Who's the bobblehead guy that we see poking out here?
So when I signed up with Howie's, as a partner with Howie's, they sent me a bobblehead.
Nice.
So that's Captain Howie, and he sits right there.
Your security guard?
Yeah, he's my guard dog. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, let's take us back to where it all happens for Oxypow.
Yeah, this is Oxypow. So I divided it in two spots. This is the dry side on the right, wet side on the left. So sharpenings and like work and just general work I do on the dry side because you don't want to do water-based things.
Right.
So this is the dry side. Nothing happens over there that involves the gear.
Let's start a little rotation. We'll go all the way down this way. Okay. Little storage back here for you, right?
Yeah, it's only 400 square feet. So I had to maximize every square foot.
Absolutely.
Because I brought the contents of the trailer, the contents of my storage unit, and the contents of my 4th bedroom and garage into one space.
This always catches me, the Rocket Sport Dryer.
That is the greatest thing in the planet. Now, we don't typically need help drying things out in Arizona.
Right.
But for when I go out of town and guys need their gloves dried or they need their gear dry, that thing will do it in an hour.
Awesome.
And it does it safely, which is the other key thing.
And we don't need to touch on this too much because you already did a whole segment on that. But This is where it all happens for Oxypow, isn't it?
This is it. Yeah. So this is the wet side. This is where all the ozonation takes place on your gear. These are specifically designed stainless steel drums, large capacity. Only requires 5 gallons of water to do gear per load. So it's very environmentally conscious and all that good stuff. I brought in a dryer to help dry all the laundry that you guys seem to always want to put in the bag with your stuff. So now it can be nicely dried easily. And like I said, it's next day now. It's not, hey, when are we going to meet? It's drop it off today, I'll have it tomorrow.
And give us that one final touch that I always ask you about. The water goes through the cycles. What happens to the water at the end?
Okay, the water goes through 3 cycles. The water becomes potable at the end of the last cycle through the machine, and yes, you can drink it.
How good is that? I mean, for the environment, for everything?
Well, yeah, I have an EPA certification. I have a DHS certification just because of that.
Very good. Let's finish things up with the company pet over here.
Hey, careful. It's my mascot. It's the shop mascot.
Okay, I want to know if this shop mascot can smell.
Turtles, yeah, they can smell very, very, very well. So no, Shelly is the shop mascot.
Imagine that.
Yeah, she was at home. She was my oldest son's turtle, and he went off to Canada. So then she conveniently became my turtle. So I brought her down here with me for someone to talk to.
Does she talk back?
Sometimes. Yeah, she lets me know. But no, I just brought her in because it's just something I like having. I like having a turtle pet around, and I just wrote up a little guideline for people who are curious about African side-neck turtles, and of course I had to add some humor in there for her pro stats. I said she does the 40-yard dash in 11 days, 22 hours, and 33 minutes.
I know some men's leaguers that do that.
Yeah, they go blue line to blue line in about a week and a half.
All right, Jay. Again, thanks for having us in. It's been a great night tonight. Great products. Keep your eyes peeled for Fantastic Fridays. They're going to be coming on sooner than you think.
Very excited.
And when they get going again, we're going to be all over the place. And we wish you the best of luck in all your endeavors. And, when people see you out and about, make sure they shout out that they saw you on Ice Time Hockey Southwest.
Absolutely.
Hey, Michael here from M-Drive. My dad, a world-class scientist, actually made M-Drive for himself to stay active and continue enjoying life. And yes, M-Drive supports healthy testosterone, but it's so much more. M-Drive is the everyday supplement to fuel your drive with more energy and more strength. Listen, we'd love for you to try M-Drive too. Visit mdriveformen.com and we'll give you 20% off your first purchase. Just type in the code DRIVE at checkout. Refine your prime with M-Drive.
All right, welcome back in, hockey fans in the Desert Southwest, to Hockey Talk in the Desert Southwest. Seth Askelson is still with me. Seth, first of all, thanks for coming in.
Yeah,
appreciate
thanks for having me.
Great to have you on board covering Coyotes hockey for us. But let's talk about the expertise that you and I both work in the field in college hockey, club college hockey and NCAA hockey. Let's talk about where you stand over at Grand Canyon and what you've seen out of that program and how big it is to add another D1 ACHA team to this Desert Southwest.
I think it's big. I mean, when you really look at it, the only team in the Desert Southwest that doesn't have an ACHA D1 team is NAU, and it's a program that easily...
NAU, we're talking to you. Travis, bring those guys on. Come on.
But I mean, really, and it's a program that could easily have, they have the talent to have a Division I program. So you're talking maybe in 3, 4, 5 years, every university that is in the ACHA in Arizona having a Division I team. You got UNLV, a Division I ACHA that is, UNLV up there playing at a gorgeous rink at City National and their ACHA D1. I mean, I think we're still maybe 10 to 20 years away, but going to have a West Coast conference in college hockey. I mean, ASU is just the launching pad. And these are programs that, I mean, obviously we got to wait to see what GCU does at the ACHA Division I level, but UNLV and U of A have proven success. ASU has taken home the ACHA National Championship at the Division I level. It's programs that, it's not like California, right? Like in California, there's a lot of ACHA teams, but really the only one that you really see too much promise out of is Cal State Northridge, who always puts together a fast team. They're a very, very fast team. We saw them in the Division II regionals this year, the Western regionals, and but it's not like California where USC, UCLA, Stanford, San Jose State, they have all these teams. They're just not very good. I remember GCU had played Washington State a couple years back, and Washington State brought 11 guys. And that included their one goaltender.
How tough is that to play college hockey level at?
Yeah, exactly. So it's not one of those things where it's, sure, they have all these ACHA teams, but it's D3 and nobody's having success. You were having successful ACHA Division I programs, and 20 years we might be talking about almost a college hockey holy war here in Arizona with ASU and GCU within a rock's throw of each other, and U of A only a 2-hour drive down the 10.
With ACHA D1 hockey, for those people that don't know, it's a polling process, right? You got to get into the top 18 with 2 auto bids to make it to a national tournament. Yet last year we sent the U of A and we sent UNLV, who is in the Desert Southwest. They're not in the conference, but both teams got in the national tournament. I'm sure Danny Roy is chomping at the bit to get his team in. I know I talked to Tate Green last week. He's as anxious to get his team in. What's a shot? Can we get 4 teams in the NCAA or in the ACHA national tournament from the Desert Southwest?
I think you could. I mean, honestly, I'm not sure about this year, right? I know GCU. It's going to be a little bit of a learning process for them.
Yeah, like it is for everybody.
There were a lot of bright flashes when they played Division I teams. They played ASU extremely well. Went down to U of A and stole a game at U of A, but then there were also a lot of times where they struggled. There's been 2 separate occasions where they've gone down to Tucson, and following wins, they've gotten shellacked the next night. And so I think it's for a lot of those guys just kind of learning, okay, sure, we beat this team and it's big because we're Division II, but all of a sudden, all right, you're D1 now, and not that nobody's going to care, but all of a sudden it's not, you're not going to look at your schedule and, wow, that was a big upset, and that really propelled us. It's like, okay, well, yeah, you split a series with U of A, all right, now you got to go up to UNLV, and you got to take 2. Oh, and all of a sudden you got to go up to Minot State. You got to steal 1 from Minot State, and you're flying into North Dakota, and you're taking a hours-long bus ride into this rink where there's 900 people that live in this city, and it's a lot tougher of a road. So for GCU, I think it's going to be a lot of learning pains, a lot of growing pains. I think they're going to be decent. Danny does a great job of getting his players up. I mean, even in their first season in Division II, they played a lot of games really close and a lot of games they should have won, but I think it was just kind of the experience factor. But you're going to bring in a lot of guys who, a guy like Brett Kramer, who's played at the Division I level, through those games, and who's experienced at playing college hockey. I think when GCU first got in, it was a lot of freshmen and sophomores, whereas now you're going to have a sprinkle in a lot of veterans on top of very talented freshmen, and it'll be interesting for ASU. They're almost in a rebuilding stage in the sense, like, they went NCAA Division I, and they took all the best staff with them. And Tate Green, I think, is doing a good job of getting that program back to where it is. I think year by year, you're starting to see they're starting to kind of turn the wheels again. All of a sudden, I think it's one of those things where a lot of guys are like, well, maybe I could make the Division I team one day, and the NCAA team, so they'll come play here for a year or 2, just keep their face around the program, and maybe come to an open tryout if ASU's D1 team ever hosts one. And so I think I'll say it within 5 years you'll have all 4 teams competing in the tournament, and maybe at some point we'll have a Desert Hockey Southwest ACHA Division
wouldn't
One
that,
final.
Wouldn't that be nice, huh?
It wouldn't be nice to the rest of the East Coast and the Midwest, but we definitely celebrate it down here.
Absolutely. All right, let's wrap up this show. Got to thank our sponsors, of course, first and foremost, Jay Hinnant here at Oxypow, and for bringing us in and giving us this awesome environment to sit and cool off, and great products behind us. I also want to thank our friends at M Drive. The great M Drive is always in my pocket. I take it daily. The best formula for revitalization, re-strengthening your muscles, recouping, doing everything you need to do. So thanks a lot, M Drive, for sticking with us. College Bar and Grill, we'll see you next week. Every other week we get down there and enjoy that environment because we're right there in the heart of ASU's campus. So we'll be back next week. We'll also have a lot of hockey to talk about after the draft, and you and I will be busy next week with the draft this weekend and prospect camps coming up. So get to the website, get to IcetimeHockeySW.com. Follow us along on our social media sites, and glad to have you on board. I can't wait to see your stuff that you put together because I know you do a fantastic job with Black Dog and the announcing part of it. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you do with the Arizona Coyotes and what you can bring us.
I appreciate it. Yeah, hopefully, like you said, maybe you and I are going to be across the table in a press box for the Western Conference Final. We'll see, but that definitely, hopefully, is the end goal of the 2019
I'm going to give a quick
season.
shout out to Andrew Bell, who probably wanted to throw a water bottle at me when Vegas and San Jose were playing because we were that was a feisty competition. But love Andrew. He's a diehard San Jose fan, and good for him for getting as far as they got. And you know what? All good competition leads to bring out the best in everybody.
Yeah, the Pacific's going to be interesting next year. Dave Tippett at the Oilers. Look, Dave Tippett has proven that if you put talent at Dave Tippett's feet, he will turn it into magic. I mean, what he did with the Stars is unbelievable. So I'd
start marking your calendars for Edmonton Oiler games, Vegas games.
That's right.
Arizona
I mean,
games.
it's going to be really interesting. Pacific
It's a lot of
Division.
fun.
I mean, the Flames. We'll see what the Flames do. Do they bounce back? They had a really rough go in the postseason. Does that hurt them? I mean, former Golden Knight James Neal did not have a good series, healthy scratch for a couple games. It'll be interesting to see what they do in the offseason. I mean, they'll probably go David Rittich in net, but is Mike Smith, is he going to retire? Are they going to keep him around? I think you might see a couple of opening spots in the Pacific Division, kind of in those top three.
All right, we'll wrap it up for tonight. We're going to